Okay, good evening. This is the beginning of our series of presentations on letters of the Hebrew alphabet. I call this magic of the Hebrew language, or magic of the Hebrew alphabet. What is so magical about simple letters? Usually we take them as symbols from which we construct words, and there's nothing really magical about them. However, we have a very long Jewish tradition that is telling us each letter has significance. Each letter, actually, according to one of the most ancient books of Jewish tradition, it's attributed traditionally to Abraham, which means it even precedes the Torah. It was recorded much later, probably around the time of the rabbis of the Talmud, but it was known already to the rabbis of the Talmud, and it already existed in writing, because it's been quoted in the Talmud. This is Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation. The book of formation, Sefer Yetzirah, says how the world was created with the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So these are the building blocks of creation. Also, we know there's this very interesting concept of Hebrew letters representing each of them has a numeric value. Traditionally, we didn't use the numbers that we have today. We usually call them Arabic numbers, right? But they really come from the East, they come from India. Traditionally, Jews were using letters as numbers. And in that sense, letter Aleph, the first one, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, has a numeric value 1. Letter Bet, the second letter, has a numeric value 2. Today, and so on it goes. Today, we're only going to cover the first 2 letters, Aleph and Bet. I want to show you how much we can learn from just 2 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph and Bet. And each of these lectures under the series name of Magic of the Hebrew Alphabet or Magic of the Hebrew Language will be focused on a few letters. Today we start from the beginning. We start from Aleph and Bet, and the subtopic would be oneness and multiplicity. We got to take a look at some of the key ideas of Judaism through the letters. And we're going to be able to see, hopefully, how certain concepts of Jewish thought become manifested in the symbols, in the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Before we do that, before we get to the actual lessons that each letter has to teach us, I'd like to give you a couple of examples of how certain ideas can actually be illustrated conceptually through the order of the Hebrew alphabet. One of those ideas I mentioned on Shabbat. Every Shabbat, and as a matter of fact, every day, those people who pray daily, every day, we read the Psalm Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha. This is the Psalm, one of the Psalms of King David. We have it traditionally at least twice daily. We recite it in the morning prayers, and we have it in Mincha, in afternoon prayers. And of course, in Shabbat, we also have it. We have it as part of Psukei de Zimra, the beginning of Shabbat prayer, and then again we have it before Musaf. So on Shabbat, as a matter of fact, we recite it twice here. So what is so unique about this psalm? If you take a look at it, it's an acrostic. In other words, it has each line starting with the letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it follows the order, it follows the sequence of the alphabet. It starts with Ashrei, letter Aleph. The next line is starting from letter Bet. The following line with letter Gimel, and so on it goes till the very end of the alphabet, till the letter Tav. So it covers the whole alphabet, the whole alphabetic order. What does it mean? What does it represent? It represents the idea of completion. It represents the idea of the ultimate blessing that one can give to God for His creation that's complete and perfect. And therefore Talmud goes as far as to say that whoever does it daily, his portion in the world to come is guaranteed. that much value is been given to this idea of giving an alphabetical order blessing from Aleph to Tav, as they would say in American English, from A to Z, right? Or in British English, from A to Z, right? So it's from the beginning to the end. It's an all-encompassing blessing that we want to give for this beautiful creation. So next time we read Ashrei, you can take a look at it and notice how beautifully it's being written by King David. So each line represents the letter of the Hebrew alphabet, giving a blessing and praying for the beauty of the creation, all the way from Aleph to Tav. That's one example. Another example is actually very famous, but we usually don't notice that. It made it into one of the books of the Tanakh. We have 24 books, or we call Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, Tuvim. Christians call it the Old Testament. We call it Tanakh. So in one of the books of Tuvim, the writings, we have the book written traditionally by King Solomon. And that's the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, of course, is the book of wisdom. And in one section of that book, there appears a beautiful psalm that usually what happens in Jewish homes, when a husband comes back from his prayers, he comes home and he sings the beautiful hymn, and that hymn is chapter 31 in the book of Proverbs. It's Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil literally means a woman of valor, or a woman of valor. Yeah, valor I think is a good term, right? Basically, that's Eshet Chayil. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Now, not many people realize that Eshet Chayil is also combined in the same way. You have the all-encompassing praise of the Jewish woman that is doing all these beautiful things, and she's so energetic and exciting, and she's so full of energy and joy, and she's capable of doing so many beautiful things. And again, we have the same idea from Aleph to Tav. Each and every line follows the order of the Hebrew alphabet. Next time you look at it, you will notice. We usually don't. So again, it's an acrostic. It's coming from Aleph and goes down all the way to Tav. One of the ideas behind this beautiful text, of course, the simple meaning is still there. It stays there, definitely. It's the hymn of the Jewish woman. But as much as it is the hymn of a Jewish woman, it's also an idea of, we understand God has aspects of male and female in it. So here we're talking about Shekhinah. Shekhinah is divine presence. It's usually seen as a feminine aspect of divinity. It's a feminine aspect of Hashem, His presence in this world. Shekhinah, from the word Shachen. Shachen means a neighbor. So we understand God is real and present in this world, not like the Greek philosophers used to think, that He just created the world and He left it. He's actually very much interested. He's very close to us. We can interact with Him through prayer. He listens to our prayers. He's present in our lives. He's present in our homes. Shekhinah. So this is also a hymn to the divine presence. And that's how we come home. We want to make sure we have God's presence being manifested in our homes. And that's another idea, a beautiful idea of the hymn. And again, it's all-encompassing. The idea that we do not differentiate, like other religions do, between certain spheres of life that are sacred and certain places where you worship God and other places where things are mundane and you basically left to yourself. We understand that we take everything in this world, all aspects and all parts of reality, and we want to imbue it with the light of Hashem's presence. And that's the idea of this all-encompassing blessing that we have for a Jewish woman or for Shekhinah in the book of Proverbs, in the book of Mishlei. In Hebrew, Proverbs is Mishlei. That's chapter 31. I'd like to finish with an idea that is coming from a Hasidic tradition. But actually, before the Hasidism was born in Eastern Europe, there's a similar story about one of the great Kabbalists. His name is Arizal. Zal is really of blessed memory, but that's how we call him, Ari of blessed memory, Arizal. If you got to be in Tzfat, there's two different synagogues, one Ashkenazi and one Sephardi, that are known as Arizal's synagogues. He was half Ashkenazi, half Sephardi. Very interesting person. And so Arizal, of course, was a great master of Kabbalah. He is the one who brought many ideas of what we know today as Kabbalah to be known. And he had many disciples who would continue his legacy. One of the stories about him goes that he apparently prophetically, or somehow he hears about a person in Tzfat that reached such heights in spirituality that even he couldn't. So what is this man doing? Who is he? He wants to know. He sees it in a dream, he knows it prophetically, and he wants to know who's the man. And apparently, it's revealed to him where the person lives. He goes, it's a very simple villager. It's a person who barely knows, he barely knows any books. He doesn't really. He's embarrassed. He says, oh, the great Arizal is here. Well, how can I help you? And Arizal turns to him and says, well, it's been revealed to me that your prayers are so holy. I want to understand. What is it? Teach me. What are you doing? He says, really? I'm so embarrassed. I don't even know how to read. But that's what I did last Yom Kippur. I came to a shul. I came to a synagogue. I didn't know how to read the Siddur. I couldn't read any of these prayers. I said, God, one thing I remember as a child, I learned the alphabet. I learned the Aleph base. What I gotta do, I gotta recite the letters of the Aleph base. And you put them into words. You know I love you with all my heart. I gotta recite the letters. You gotta put those letters into words. And it goes, Aleph, base, Gimel. And that's what he did. I'm sure some people probably ridiculed him, saying, look at this ignorant man. He doesn't even know how to read. Apparently, it's been revealed that with this honesty and with this innocence, just the letters of the Hebrew alphabet have tremendous power. And this similar story appears later in our tradition about Baal Shem Tov, the founding father of Hasidic movement. So it's an ongoing story. I think it's a beautiful story that is telling us sometimes it's not about how much we know, but it's about the intention. And if we set the right intention, we could literally change the world. And the letters of the alphabet, they are those founding blocks of creation. They have a tremendous power. We very often don't even realize what power they have. The final story before we get to the Aleph and Bet is the story from the Talmud. It's actually the only story in the Talmud where the rabbis of the Talmud are discussing the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And the story starts like this. Rabbis told Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, some children have come to the study hall today. They came to Bet Midrash, the study hall, and have said things whose equal were not said even in the days of Joshua ben Nun. With Joshua ben Nun, Yeshua ben Nun, of course, is the famous disciple of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was on the greatest caliber. He was the first one who brought us into the land of Israel. And apparently the mysteries that these children were revealing were even greater. And these mysteries, we today only got to touch upon the first one that has to do with letter Aleph and letter Bet. They explained each of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet to mean certain ideas, certain concepts. And so Talmud goes and says, Aleph Bet, or Aleph Beis in Ashkenazi pronunciation, stands for Aluf Binah. Aluf Binah means learn understanding. Learn understanding. Now, we have two versions of the Talmud. According to Jerusalem Talmud, these were not just simple kids. Apparently, they were regular Jewish kids, but apparently they will grow to become great rabbis of the generation, great leaders of the generation. This will be Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, who in turn will be teachers and mentors of the famous Rabbi Akiva. But at this point, these are just little kids. They come and learn, and they start with Aluf Binah. The first message is, it's the idea that we need to learn understanding. And that's how Judaism, I think, starts with the idea that we need to learn and learn and learn and go deeper in our learning. And today we're going to take a look at some of the great ideas that are behind these two letters, Aleph and Bet, and what kind of understanding we can grasp from these two letters.